On the agenda tonight, we're going back to the 1960s. We're going to be taking a look at Jimi Hendrix, and he's going to be playing a 12-string acoustic guitar and a 6-string acoustic guitar. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So normally with Jimi Hendrix videos, they get blocked on copyright immediately. I have a couple of them on the channel here somewhere, but there isn't a lot of footage of Jimi playing acoustic guitars, so we're going to be having a look at that tonight. And also, he is going to be playing Hear My Trainer Coming on the 12-string, and then his own version of Hound Dog on the 6-string. But we'll get Jimi up on screen and see how he gets on.
Hey, can we just have one more time? Hurry, don't waste all the film there. Stop it for a second. Because I was scared as to death. So then, can I just do it one more time, though? Can I just do it one more time? Well, I wait around train station, waiting for that train, waiting for the train, yeah. Take me from this lonesome place. Well, now a whole lot of people put me down out of chain, yeah. My girl and called me a disgrace. The tears burning, tears burning me, tears burning me, way down in my heart. It's too bad, little girl, it's too bad. Too bad we have to part. This town, yeah, I've got to leave this town. Gonna make a whole lot of money, gonna be big, yeah, gonna be big, yeah. I'm gonna buy this town, I'm gonna buy this town, and put it all in my shoe.
I'm just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this video is going to be in the description below, so you guys can click on that link to watch this all the way through without me splitting it up and jumping into it. The interesting thing about this is the tuning on the guitar, for one thing, because we are pretty much in between keys here, and it is really detuned down in C. So if you take your standard tuning, you're going to have to go quite a way down. You're going down 2 full steps here. So even tuning down to D would sound pretty detuned, but it's even further than that. So it's another thing to take into consideration when you see the bends that are happening on that 2nd fret. The strings are going to be a lot looser than normal. The interesting thing about this video footage is that we spend a little bit of time looking at his left hand, his rhythm hand, and you can start to get an understanding of how Jimi played the guitar and how he blended his lead and rhythm together by utilizing a rhythm stroke with that left hand and picking out single notes within the flow of that movement. Sometimes he will go off into picking out single notes when he wants them just to jump out, but he'll also use that strumming action and pick out notes, which means that he's going to be filling in more of the sound. He's also going to get some percussive sounds from striking the strings, which is going to fill out the sound as well. When we think about Jimi Hendrix as a guitarist, we have to remember that he was in a 3-piece and he was the center of attention. He would fill in as much frequency as he could with his technique. That is something that is essential to make a great sound as a 3-piece. When a guitarist goes into a lead section in a 3-piece, if they are being really technically minded and just picking one string at a time and not allowing any other strings to ring out, and keeping them all perfectly muted, you'll find that the sound can drop out. And more often than not, a great guitarist in a 3-piece will be filling in the sound by striking those other strings. Exactly what we've got from Jimi here. I will refer back to the video to begin with to give you guys a bit of an example of what I'm talking about. So let's have a look here. So there we have it. So you can see the amount of movement in the wrist of that rhythm arm. It means that we've got that motion up and down, even though we're hearing single notes, because Jimi's striking more than one string when he's playing lead, but he's making sure that he's carefully muting with his left hand in order to make all of those notes pop out, but he still gets the percussive sound of the deadened strings. So as an example, I'm going to first of all play with very strict technique on my right hand and not put in any of the wrist rotation that we see Jimi applying here. So it's going to sound like this. Like that. As you can hear, there's lots of gaps in there. It's not a full sound. Whereas when you just throw caution to the wind and start throwing in a bit of this wrist rotation at the same time as playing these lead notes, we get this kind of sound. And you can hear how we're getting so much more of a full sound, and I'm not really bothering about being strict with the strings that I'm hitting, as long as you are muting the right strings with your left hand, even when you're doing a run like that, which really strict would be just a hammer on of the 2nd fret of the A string and the D string. But if you go there, I'm hitting the low E, I'm maybe catching the G as well, but because my hammer-ons are strong, you can still hear that run. It means that when you are playing through a standard blues progression, as we've got going on here, when you then change over to your A7, for example, then all of these notes that you can just throw in again. I'm in my minor pentatonic shape 1 here, so it means that when you're transitioning from even that B7th as well, all all of these notes, you can hear as well that I'm really smacking these strings to get that percussive sound within the lead notes that I'm playing, but it's all there for you, all of your minor pentatonic shape 1 notes. But hopefully you guys could see the difference in movement of the right hand between being really strict technically and then just throwing a bit more caution to the wind and letting your left hand take care of most of the muting when you don't want to hear a particular string. But especially in E minor and in E major, you're going to have a lot of open strings that are going to be fine. For example, your top 2 strings, you know, a little hammer on to that first fret of the G, and you've got just open strings you can hit there. So you'll find that you can get away with a lot when you're playing a blues in the key of E. We are going to be jumping back into the video, but something I want to mention about that first performance, they're not really performances, it's just Jimmy picking up a guitar and jamming out a tune. But in that first video, you can see the way that Jimmy's just messing around, and then he realizes that they're filming, and he says that he was really nervous, and can they start again? Can he start playing again? And this is the thing about the top guitarists are human as well. So they might think that they aren't playing very well, or they want to start again, and it's great to see that also how humble Jimmy was, that he doesn't think that he's this amazing guitarist. He wants to make sure that when he is playing, he thinks at least it's half decent on some level, but of course everyone else thinks that it's amazing. But we are going to jump into this version of Hound Dog, which is something that Jimmy's thrown together. Interestingly, if the copyrights are being applied to this in the modern day, this would probably get taken down because Jimmy definitely didn't have permission to play this and for somebody to film it, and then it's now on YouTube. And this kind of video really does highlight how ridiculous the copyright laws are and how they are being applied to so many videos on YouTube, because a guy like Jimi Hendrix wouldn't have been able to get away with this and would have to have it taken down because it's him playing a song that he did not write, even though it is a totally different version of it, but the copyright laws would still apply. But anyway, let's have a listen to it, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it won't get blocked on this video.
So she won't have to drink anymore in her life. You never will be thirsty after that. Get her a pint of liquor.
How about half an
See what your daddy was. laying in bed. One looked at the other one and said, oh shit, I fucked it all up.
And there we have it. As you can see, I think Jimmy forgets the words of what he's attempting to sing or put his own spin on his version of Hound Dog. This video is another great example of Jimmy's use of that rhythm hand. And once you start throwing in this kind of playing of and hitting the strings in the way that Jimmy does so loosely, there's a personality in the way of playing. There's an expression in there. And this is why the top players are so unique and they just sound like themselves playing, because they're not being really technical about their playing. They're just throwing caution to the wind sometimes and just playing with the feeling they've got. It's something you're never going to be able to replicate. If you're trying to copy someone's playing and you say, right, I want the high E string and the B string to ring out at approximately 75 or exactly 75% of the G string and then the D string, you can't work it out like that. It's an impossible mathematical equation, because the only way you can get close is trying to get the same expression. So when Jimmy's going like that, you just have to play it with the same kind of feel, and even then it's not going to sound exactly the same, but there's so much in there that is expressive. That's the only way that you can try and attempt to do it in any way similar. Something that I want to point out as well is the way that Jimmy would sometimes go up to the extended shape rather than always stay in pentatonic shape 1, the E minor down at the bottom. So it meant that with a line that he plays here, which is similar to like that, slowing that down, he started in shape 1, but rather than continuing it in shape 1, he's done that slide into the extended shape. So going. Now what that does is isolate the notes even more, because when you go up into your E minor pentatonic extended shape, you've got the ability now to mute the other strings with your first finger. If I wanted only the run to pop out, I'd play, and you get a definite clarity and conciseness to the sound that here you can still hear those other strings ringing out. And it's something that Jimmy did in order to make a run just stand out a little bit more. Kind of like that. So it's something that you can experiment with yourself. The great thing is that in E, you're always going to have that low E string that you can rely on to get you out of jail, because it's a get out of jail free card. You've always got the ability to resolve any line you play without having to go down to play the chord. So that and you can even just play riffs on that 5th fret and 7th fret, because that is the start of your extended pentatonic shape. So because of the way that Jimmy played with so much freedom in that rhythm hand, it meant that his expression wasn't filtered in any way. And that's why it's so difficult to sound anything like Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar. Obviously here we're in E minor, so it means that we have got the luxury of open strings that we can rely on. The great thing about Jimmy is that he could do this all over the neck. So when he would jump up to, say for example, an A minor 7th shape, he'd then get his thumb over the top, and he'd now be doing exactly the same thing, hearing those other strings, getting that percussive sound. Kind of like that. So there is so much that Jimmy would do. This is just the tip of the iceberg when you're talking about a guy like Jimi Hendrix. As you guys all know, I'm a huge fan, and he was the first guitarist that I heard and then thought, actually, I want to be able to do something like that in the future. So I started playing the guitar and trying to work out what he was doing. But it's the expression that's in the playing, and Maybe you can start to get a little bit of an insight into that in this video. Thank you guys so much for suggesting this video for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!